Drake Maye certainly looked good in the preseason finale against the Commanders, but is it enough for him to be the starting quarterback week 1 for the New England Patriots? Let's talk about it here on the Locked On Patriots postcast, the maiden voyage. I'm your host, Cam Stewart, at Real Cam Stewart on X there. I work for Locked On Baylor primarily, and now coming on for the Patriots postcast. I am a New England native myself, a native of Massachusetts, so I've missed one Patriots game in the last 18 years. So I think this was not much work for me. Anyway, we go into the regular season for the Patriots, 1-2 in the preseason, if any of you even care about that, because inconsequentially, the Commanders do get the win. In fact, I don't even remember the final score as I've been preparing for a postcast. It was 20-10, by the way. The Commanders scoring all 20 of their points in the second half. Very much fourth preseason game is what we're used to, but of course, the last few years, the third preseason game being the final one. Washington does not play any starters. The Patriots mix some in, even have some in the second half, but it was a first half for the starters for the most part, and some Jags in the second half. Well, Jags in the first and second half. Some of them just happen to be starters. But first, I wanted to start with Drake Maye. That's what we come here for. That's what we've been looking for. That has been the intrigue of the summer for the Patriots. This shiny new toy, the number 3 overall pick in the draft. By the way, how much of a bummer that this didn't become number 2 versus number 3. In fact, I was on with Mike Debate for Locked On Patriots on Friday, and we were saying that could still be the case in like 10 minutes after I got off that podcast. It was announced that Jaden Daniels was not going to play. So check out Mike Debate on his breakdown of this game tomorrow. But it's kind of what we saw in week 2, right? A drive from Jacoby Brissett, and he was fine. He didn't do much. It was one drive. He got absolutely leveled on a sack where I think it was City So could not pull out. Nobody on this offensive line could pull out. Sounds like Phillip Rivers or something. They could not kick out to the side. It just kept running them into trouble. In this case, it was City So who ran into Mike Onwenu, the tackle, who also ran into JaMycal Hasty, the blocking back, and it led to a thunderous sack that Jacoby Brissett ends up hurting his shoulder. It looked pretty minor. He stayed in pads. He was out there the rest of the game. They didn't even have him take the pads off at halftime. So probably not anything there, but he just has the one drive. He gets shaken up. Drake Maye plays the rest of the first half and looks pretty darn good. The final line is 13-20 for 125 yards and a touchdown. He has a touchdown taken off the board, which would have been the play of the night. On that play in the second half is actually, second quarter towards halftime in that 2-minute drill. He's rolling out to the left and on the money as he's running, throws about 40 yards downfield. Would have been a touchdown for KJ Osborne, but of course, there was a penalty on the offensive line. We're going to talk about that unit in a minute. But Drake Maye, once again, looked improved. And I think that's all we can ask for through 3 preseason games. There were some people who were at these practices, members of the media, who were writing this kid off a few weeks ago, which was stupid to begin with. But it looks even more stupid now. Say what you will about the offense and the weapons, and of course the offensive line, but Drake Maye has improved each of these weeks. And Collinsworth even talked about it. The big thing is the footwork. You didn't need to be a scouting expert to realize Drake Maye did not have great NFL quarterback footwork. You saw it. You were like, why did that pass miss so bad in his college tapes or his college games? And it was tremendous in this game once again. And one throw that I did want to point out is one that Collinsworth talked about as well, was on that 2-minute drill. He fires a dart to Javon Baker. Okay. It's one where he's kind of going left. His feet are pointed forward in the middle hash mark. And the throw is to one of the outer hashes. And it's on the money. It is an absolute bullet to Javon Baker. And it's a first down that keeps the chains moving on a 2-minute drill. Like, he nailed that. That might have been his best throw of the night. And there was another one that almost didn't almost get picked. He had a guy sandwiched. It was a hospital ball. But the broadcast is talking about how tight a window he had to throw it through. And it's like, don't throw that. And I was like, you're right, because you can get your receiver hurt. But he threaded that needle. He got it there. He makes a big play with his legs and on the first drive, the first set of downs. Of course, the first snap, they botched the snap. He has to go back and fall on it. And then the second one, they're trusting him to drop back in the end zone. And then on a 3rd and 14, he gives you 17 on the ground. You knew from then that this kid, he was going to be on one tonight. And he had a rhythm throughout mostly that second quarter. Throws the touchdown pass to Kevin Harris, who makes a really great play, by the way. Kevin Harris does on that touchdown, which is just a throw out into the flat that Harris looks like Dion Lewis all of a sudden and goes in for the score. But I saw an even more composed Drake Maye in this game, a kid who was once again going through all of his progressions, wasn't afraid of a check down. In fact, one of my favorite plays of the game, I took note of it, was in the second quarter. He audibled on, what was it? It was a 2nd and 20. It was a 2nd and 20. He audibles and just does like a quick in cut to Pop Douglas. And to me, that was an awesome decision. He gets like 6 yards out of it. But this is a kid with a big arm that has always been able to bail him out. And he's been told at this NFL level that that's not going to work. And he's taken that into account. I think college Drake Maye would have said 2nd and 20, no problem. I'll throw it for 25 right now. Instead, he saw what the defense was going to give him. He audibled out of it, got a minor gain, but you live to see another down. You're not 3rd and 20. You're 3rd and whatever, 14 or 12, which is a much better situation. All that to be said about this Drake Maye performance, because I thought it was great, especially from what he looked like in week 1 of the preseason and what you heard about at the joint practices. I thought it was great. But Washington did have their second team defense out there the whole game. I can't not acknowledge that. Washington did not play, I don't think, a single starter in like this entire game on either side of the ball. But that first drive, you knew that he had a rhythm. 5 of 6, 71 yards, and a touchdown. I mean, I thought he was in the exact rhythm he needed to be in. He misses on one deep ball, but it's not by very much. It's another one to Baker down the sideline. It wasn't by very much. There was one bad play I thought he had, which was actually on the touchdown drive. It was right before the touchdown pass. He goes to his check down guy, a running back. I think it was Hasty. It might have been Harris. And he kind of happy feets it a little bit. He tries like a little jump pass. It's way over. It's a couple yards over the receiver's head. And it was in the flat. Like that could have been a pick in another game. But that was the only one where I thought, oh man, that's college Drake Maye. We don't want that. Other than that, excellent. I thought excellent. One thing that was one facet of this Patriots team that was not so excellent, of course, was that offensive line, which we're going to talk about because we have to address this. But first, I got to tell you about today's postcast being brought to you by LinkedIn Talent Solutions. Look, LinkedIn ain't just like any other job board, okay? They help you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but they might be perfect for the role. In any given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't use other visiting job sites. So if you're not using LinkedIn, you're in the wrong place. And on LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. They know that small businesses are wearing so many hats, they might not have the time or the resources to hire. That's why 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. Drake Maye, good. Offensive line, not good. Not good. Mike Debate's going to tell you even more about it tomorrow. Locked On Patriots tomorrow morning when that drops. Be sure to catch the full breakdown from Mike Debate and also his roster. It's changing every week, every day. I've had a lot of fun talking to him about it. In fact, he's going to be on my show, The Cam Show, on Rogue Media Sports Network as well to talk Patriots and to talk this roster. And offensive line is fascinating. What are you going to do? There's nothing you can do now, but maybe try and pry Dante Scarnecchia out of retirement. This is just an embarrassment on this offensive line. This team is not going to win anything up front. Nothing. Oh, man. The first two drives, Jacoby Brissett gets lit up because Sidy So cannot kick out. And when he does kick out, he takes two other of his own blockers out of the play. Almost injures the starting quarterback. And then you bring in the kid who everyone wants to be the starter. First snap, you don't even give him a chance. You're snapping it on the ground. This team can't snap the freaking football. Leverett cannot snap the football. He had two fumbled snaps and got absolutely obliterated on a bull rush in that first Drake Maye drive. You started out with him and Robinson, Onwenu and Okorafor out in your tackle positions, and Sidy So. And that's the thing. I don't know what you do with it. I was just about to say this needs a shakeup, and it will, like Onwenu will go back to guard, but it sounds so pathetic and sad when I say this needs a shakeup. Michael Onwenu is going to go to guard when Vidarian Lowe is back to play left tackle. Good Lord, help us all, but specifically the quarterbacks. Oh, man, it's a broken record. Like, it looked like the worst in the league in the other preseason games. The reporters at training camp were telling us it was the worst in the league with that Eagles joint practice. And then we see it again. It's freaking terrible, man. In the first half, the offensive line had 8 penalties. 8. And at least one of them was 2 different penalties, both on the offensive line, so only one was accepted. This team needs a prayer on the offensive line. I mean, because they don't have any shot the way they play on that line. That's the thing. As much as I know you would love it, I would love it for Drake Maye to be out there week 1 and see what you got. But you have to, this is not just lip service. There is a legitimate concern that you might lose his NFL career because this offensive line does not give him a shot. One of the reasons I wanted Jaden Daniels, the Commanders quarterback, before the draft was because he got it out quicker than anyone in college football. He can do it in 2 seconds or less. And I thought, not just this year, they're going to need that for the next couple of years. And Drake Maye has gotten better at making those decisions quickly. But I'm telling you, man, this kid's not even going to have a chance out there the first few weeks the way this offensive line is constructed. Not a chance. So, as much as I see the question in the chat, who do I want to be QB1? I would love for it to be Drake Maye. But right now, I don't think you can afford to with this offensive line out there. But look, it goes without saying Maye has looked better in this preseason than Jacoby Brissett has. And I don't know if there's some special insurance clause in Jacoby's contract where it's like, hey, man, you're going to take a beating. But we really need you to take a beating. Please, please. And we will figure this out. Whatever the best 5 is, we'll figure it out at some point. But we don't have it right now. And we can't put Drake Maye back there. By the way, Sidy So, who struggled in this game, again, that I talked about one kick out. He had another problem kicking out later in the game. He got hurt. So I know some of you might be thinking, oh, that's great. You talk about how much this guy stinks. We've heard how much he stinks and how much this offensive line stinks. Maybe get someone else in there. Well, There's a reason he's starting, and he started 13 games last year. One of the actual experienced guys on this line leaves the game. Now, we don't know the severity of the injury. I don't know. He just kind of went down after a play. And it is preseason, so you're probably just being super precautionary with it. But you can't really you can't afford to be losing anyone with any experience. And I've heard some things about Caden Wallace, the 3rd-round pick from Penn State, in this preseason. All I know is I didn't see him until City So got hurt. I didn't see him until the second half in preseason game number 3. How much is that guy factoring into your plans this year? None. I mean, 3rd-round pick. There were some people who made a compelling argument that you should have taken a tackle in the 1st round with the number 3 pick. And I could have heard that. Absolutely. Instead, you went quarterback. That's fine. You wait till the 3rd round to pick a kid that can't even get in there until the 3rd quarter of a 3rd preseason game after somebody gets hurt. I don't think he factors into your plans this year. I'm sorry, I don't. But it gets so bad in the first half with the 8 offensive line penalties. Again, I will reiterate that. 8 penalties on the offensive line. And 3 of them were tackles not being able to line up. To the point where even the refs are clowning this team and clowning this offensive line. Because they literally get on the mic and after they throw the flag, illegal formation, once again, the tackle is not lined up correctly. Literally, once again, we were all thinking it. This team can't even line up right. They can't block right. They can't snap right. They can't kick out right. They're taking out their own guys when they're kicking out. This is an abomination of an offensive line, man. It's really, really bad. To the point where I had to think during these Eagles joint practices what I was hearing and the numbers that were being thrown at us. Is this team going from a 4 or 5 win team to like a 2-win team? That's what this offensive line makes me think. And I don't know how it gets any better. You don't pick up NFL premium tackles in August. You don't get those guys on the final cuts from some other team. You can get a punt returner. You can get an outside receiver. You're not getting a left or right tackle. In fact, you did that. You went and saw what the tackle market was, and that's how you got a core of 4, Snooks or Shooks or whatever it is. A reject, a guy who was benched by Pittsburgh, a guy who they said, please go and take. That's what the tackle market is. It's not going to be any better after other teams' final cuts. I'm just telling you that. But man, let's talk about Joe Milton a little bit. I know it's been a big part of this preseason as well as Drake Maye, but there's some good and some bad with Joe Milton that I do want to get to after this message from FanDuel. It is FanDuel. You guys have heard us talk about it all the time. Me and all my friends at the Locked On Podcast Network. It is America's #1 sports book. Well, we have something a little different for you because now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with your YouTube TV base plan, you're going to be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out of market game. That's how I can continue to do this postcast because of that. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. Just visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to download America's #1 sportsbook. That is FanDuel.com/ your friends here at Locked On. We love a good frozen computer. Anyway, Joe Milton, Bazooka Joe, Machine Gun Joe, whatever you call him. I'll probably get demonetized just for saying that word. Joe Milton, the hot pick in the early days of camp. of, oh, Drake Maye stinks. Look how hard this guy can throw. Look how far he can throw it. And boy, did you see that escape against the Panthers' third string defense in week 1? Whoa. A lot of hype around Joe Milton. And I get it. He can do a backflip. But I think you saw, I think the performances of Drake Maye and Joe Milton in week 3 of the preseason is pretty indicative of how this was supposed to go. I talked the whole first segment about how much Drake Maye has improved over this time. The footwork, the mechanics, the decision-making, it's stuff that even the amateur of amateur scouts can see watching in these preseason games. It's palpable. Joe Milton, on the other hand, has gone the other way. His athleticism might even, I don't want to say hurt him. It's not hurting him, but he is going to have to run out of a lot of busted pockets a lot. And he needs to take a breath. How many times have we seen it in this preseason? Saw it 4 or 5 times tonight where he is just humming that thing in there. And the guys can't even turn to catch it. Saw it again in this game today. And it was not a good statistical performance from Joe Milton. 5 of 17 for 78 yards. No touchdowns, no picks. Did actually throw a pick that was called back for defensive pass interference on another defender in the play. So, look, he also, went against the second string defense for Washington, but then again was also behind the second string offensive line at what might be the worst offensive line in the league. So 5 of 17, maybe you put that into some perspective a little bit, but there was a lot where he wasn't really close. It looked like some of those throws Drake Maye had in college where you're like, what the heck was that guy thinking? Joe Milton looked a lot like that. And I think that is going to shut a lot of Patriots fans up who were thinking he should be playing over Drake Maye, and shut up some turds like Colin Cowherd, who said the same thing. Or Ben Volen, who said, we watched Joe Milton and Drake Maye out there, and I couldn't tell which one was the first round pick and which was the 6th round flyer. Bull. Come on, dude. Everyone wants to hype up. There's no one more popular than the backup quarterback. And in a competition like this, no one is better than the 3rd string quarterback. This is Michael Bishop all over again. He's raw as heck, man. He's really, really raw. We've heard about it. Every draft, there's one of these quarterbacks who can get on a knee and throw it 60 yards. Sometimes they're taken in the 1st round, number 1 overall, like Jamarcus Russell. And sometimes they're Joe Milton, and you take a flyer on them in the 6th round. But they're all cut from the same cloth. They're super athletic, big guns of an arm, and some GMs can't look past that. And then there are some quarterbacks who make the most out of that and develop into real pocket passers in the NFL. Josh Allen comes to mind. I hope Joe Milton can do the same thing. Kevin Harris, I do want to talk about him a little bit because he's someone I didn't have on the roster going into this game, making the final cuts. I had JaMycal Hasty over him, and Hasty had a decent game today. Got some love when Drake Maye was out there. He ran it 4 times for 21 yards, over 5 a carry. You saw a lot of Antonio Gibson early, none of Ramondre Stevenson. And Kevin Harris is the one who gets the touchdown. You look at his line, and it's like, okay, 1 carry, -1 yards, caught a pass, and made a nice play for a touchdown. I don't think that one play puts him ahead of JaMycal Hasty in terms of the pecking order here, but it was a nice play. And someone's going to see that on tape, and they're going to pick him up. But I see more upside in JaMycal Hasty, who's a guy who's been a practice squad guy for years, including on the Patriots practice squad last year, versus year 3 of this Kevin Harris experiment. So I still think Hasty is the guy to fill up that last roster spot. But I think there's legit concerns over a lot of these skill guys. Mike Reese put out there that my guy, Tyquan Thornton, good Baylor guy, is like the number 1 receiver. I don't see where that comes from. I just don't see it. I hope I'm wrong and that he is able to prove that, and the coaches see something that none of us do. But I see more upside in Jalen Reagor, who is going to make the team out of camp. And they both probably will. But once Kendrick Bourne is off a pup, who knows? Nothing really popped out for wide receivers today. Jalen Polk had a couple catches. Javon Baker had a couple catches. Not much outside of that. It was KJ Osborne missed one that he should have had on the first drive, and then it was his touchdown that gets called back. So tough night for him, and ultimately tough second half for the Patriots. Not a good night for the offensive line. Defense, second or third team defense coughs it up at the end. So a lot of Shaun Wade, who barely made the field last year for a team that was really bad. Shaun Wade still lives on in New England Patriots lore. Anyway, let me know what you guys thought about this game and this performance and what that means going into week one, who you want to be the starter at quarterback, who are some of the guys that might not make the roster that would surprise you. Drop that down in the comments below. Be sure to like and subscribe to Locked On Patriots and the Locked On Boston Postcast. We have them for all the for the Red Sox, Patriots, and Celtics. We'll have postcasts for them. Steve Lennox will be doing the other ones. And Mike Debate, my guy, does Locked On Patriots every day, coming at you for the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for making it your first listen today and every day. We will catch you after week one, Patriots Bengals, on the next Locked On Patriots Postcast.